Hello, this is Nick. Today I'm going to show you how to back up Windows Server with file to backup. So basically this could be Windows Server 2012, 2008, 2003, doesn't matter, but it's a little different to back up a server with file to backup than your normal system. The main reason why is sometimes the server can get logged off or won't auto log in, so you maybe will not be logged into a user account for maybe a month at a time. And because it's not logged in, file to backup cannot back up because it's not running in the background. So we need to solve this by putting in a program called auto login. So if you just go into Google here, type in auto login, Microsoft has actually made a program by TechNet, and you can just download this program here. It's a quick little small program, and basically what this will do is it will allow you to auto log in if the computer restarts to a Windows update or just maybe powers off and you need to power back up again. So basically you run this program and it asks for a username, the domain if you're on one, and a password. Now what I recommend you do is don't use the default administrator, just because you might need to change the administrator password or something happens to the administrator. It's generally better to make a secondary like backup account. You could call it tech, you could call it backup. So to do that, if you're on a domain, you're going to go to active users and directories. If you're not, you're just going to go to control panel and user accounts. And basically we're going to go in here into users. We hit just right click and hit new and then user. We're just going to make one called backup. And this way, in case you switch the password for administrator, it won't stop and not auto log in. Now I would just uncheck password never expires and just put in complex password, uppercase, lowercase, and numbers in there, and then finish. Now the other thing you want to do is make sure that this user is administrator. So you right click and hit properties, members, by default just a regular user. We want this to be a full admin, so I'm going to put in domain admin, check names, that underlines it, verifies it, hit OK, now you can see it's a domain admin. So it has full permission to get access to all those files. Then we just put in the username and the password and just click enable. So that takes care of that. Now if you want to test it, restart your computer, it should auto log in. If you did something wrong, it won't work. So you might have to check your password again. So that's going to take care of the auto login part. Now you can just set your system to default just auto lock after like 5 minutes. That way if you're not around, it restarts due to a Windows update. It will auto lock the screen. That is the default generally on most servers. Will auto lock the screen. So now it comes to file to backup itself and how we want to recommend that we back up files. So generally most servers that I set up have a data drive, and so what I just do is I back up the data folder and anything subfolders, any new folders that, maybe we're going to call this, create a new folder here called users. That's going to be a subfolder of the data folder. So we're going to right click here. And you can just add the file to backup. Now this is assuming file to backup is already installed. You want to install this on the backup user that we just made, not an administrator. Log into that backup user. That's why we're making that auto logging in with that first. So you're going to log in, you're going to set the account, go through your settings, just verify that bandwidth unlimited, everything is fine there, and make sure encrypted is checked. By default that is. Then we can go to manage backups, and by default I just usually back up the public folder because sometimes QuickBooks and things like that will save to the public folder under users. So C public, and I get the data. But you can't unfortunately just back up the entire drive. You have to back up subfolders. That's why I put everything a subfolder of data. So any new folders that are made, like users, this was automatically checked off. Now we can go over to settings. I generally uncheck exclude all these files because I just wanted to back up everything. But if you did have something you wanted to exclude, you could leave that checked off. I also like to scan between 2200 hours and 0600 hours. So generally when no one's working on the server, just in case we're doing a large backup, it's not slowing down the entire network. So that's generally what I save there. I click OK. And then I'll let that back up. Depending on how much data is there, it might take quite a while. Now, if you have SQL, it's a little tricky to back up SQL in general, never mind offsite. The best thing that I'd recommend, SQL free backup, is a program called SQL free backup. And you can get there by going to SQL backup and FTP. It's a great program. It will do the full database. Basically download and install this program and then back that up to your data drive. You can make a new folder called SQL backup. And generally what you want to do is I set in this, when you program this, you can set it to auto delete after 30 days. So that way it will back up to my local drive and then send that data off site in case your server crashes or gets stolen or there's a fire theft, that you'll have those SQL backups off site. It's important not to back up the actual SQL database because it's always running. Another situation is if you're running different programs that maybe you cannot back up the existing folder because it's always in use. For example, like a PST file, which is a Outlook mail file. You can use a program called SyncBack. Again, this is another free program. Just Google SyncBack. And you can create something to run and basically copy the entire folder to a separate folder. So let me give you an example. Let's do a backup. And I can put a name in, so just called test. And let's say for some reason under my data folder, let's say print drivers. Let's say for some reason we couldn't back up print drivers offsite because we're constantly rewriting or changing these files, and it causes a conflict. Basically what we could do is set up a second folder on the data drive called backup print drivers. And you can basically just schedule that to run nightly. After you're creating it, you just basically schedule it. Of course, here it is. So we would just choose a time, daily, 8 a.m. to run this, and now we make sure that that is backed up, that option is checked off. So now it's basically going to copy daily from this folder, print drivers, over to this folder, and now it's not backing up the original file that's in use. Generally, you don't need to worry about things like that, but there might be a particular program that you just can't access. It's always in use because clients on the network are constantly editing or changing it. That might be the best way to get access to that file by just letting Windows copy that to a second location and then backing up that second location. So that takes about care of most of the things I recommend for a server. Offsite backup, as you can see, it's uploading. I always do recommend that after you've done a complete backup, try a couple file restores and constantly check to see if new folders have been added and making sure that file to backup is grabbing those. Also, I do recommend a local backup on pretty much every server. Something that generally can image. You can use built-in Windows backup and back up to an external hard drive. Also, another great one is called EaseUS backup. This one will snapshot or clone your hard drive. So if you have any other questions, please leave them in the comments. Thank you.